everybody. We are ready to start a new chapter in math. We spent last week kind of reviewing and going back over some of the things we have learned so far. So this week we're going to be starting a new chapter. It's chapter 10 in our books, and we're going to be talking about three-dimensional shapes. Now we've already learned our two-dimensional shapes, our flat shapes, circle, square, triangle, rectangle, hexagon. Now we're going to start talking about three-dimensional shapes, and that just means rather than a flat shape you just write on a piece of paper, a three-dimensional shape is something you can actually pick up and hold. So these are going to be shapes that are actual objects, things like cones and cylinders, spheres, cubes, those kind of shapes are what we're going to be talking about in this chapter. So let's think for just a minute and look at this picture. I'll give you a minute to get this page out of your packet. This is our little chapter intro, so we're just going to kind of work through it together, see what things we need to know before we do this chapter, talk about what we're going to be learning in the chapter, and just kind of get ready to get this chapter started about three-dimensional shapes. All right, when you've got your paper out, let's look at this picture a little. It says many of the shapes in our environment, and environment just means around you, are three-dimensional shapes. Name some of the shapes you see in this picture. So these shapes aren't flat, are they? They're not just like a circle you draw on a paper. They have three dimensions. They're actual physical things that come up and out. So if you look, this part of this building right here is shaped like a three-dimensional shape called a cylinder. Kind of like a can of soup is a cylinder. It's round at the top, round at the bottom, and then has these straight sides. This one up here is kind of shaped like a cone. The roof of it, it's round at the bottom, it comes to a point. So we have some different three-dimensional shapes in this picture. Those are the kind of shapes we're going to be talking about. Let's open up to the inside and we're going to show what we know. You need your crayons for this, so get those out please. Now I'm not going to do this with you. I'm just going to give you the directions and I want you to answer these on your own, and I'll give you a little time to work, all right? So get your crayons, and when you have your crayons, get a red out. A red crayon. And put your finger on this red apple. I want you to use your red crayon to color any squares you see in these blank shapes. Color all the squares red. Now remember, squares have 4 sides and 4 vertices, but the difference in squares and rectangles is in a square, all the sides are the same. So use your red to color only the squares. When you're done coloring the squares, you can get out a blue crayon. And I want you to use your blue to color the triangles that you see. Now remember, triangles have 3 sides and 3 vertices. So color all the triangles you see blue. There should be some shapes you haven't colored at all, because there's some shapes up here that are not not squares and not triangles. Only coloring the squares red and the triangles blue. Alright, when you're done with that, you can switch back to your pencil. And let's come down. We're going to describe some shapes. Put your finger on the yellow sun. What is this green shape? It's a triangle. How many sides does the triangle have? I want you to write the number that tells how many sides that triangle has right here. And then you're going to come down below it, and I want you to write the number that tells how many vertices. Remember, we talked about the vertex. It's where 2 sides meet, and it makes that point. So count the points where those sides meet on the triangle, and write how many vertices it has right here. Now we're going to do the same thing for this blue rectangle. I want you to count the sides it has, and write how many sides right here. And then count the vertices and write how many vertices it has right here. Alright, the last thing we're going to do down here by the blue flower, look at all these shapes right here. I want you to take your pencil and I want you to put an X on the shapes that have 3 sides. I want you to put an X on every shape you see down here that has only 3 sides. Alright, let's flip over. This page has some of the vocabulary words that we're going to be learning. Some of vocabulary words are just sometimes new words or words that talk about a specific subject. In this case, we're talking about 3D shapes and shapes. So we're going to be using some shape words in this chapter. Let's see if you can look at this picture. Put an X on the food you see that is shaped like a circle. Look in this picture and see if you can find some food that is shaped like a circle and put an X on it. Circle is one of the shapes we've already used, and we're going to use it in this chapter too, because sometimes two-dimensional shapes like circles are used to build the three-dimensional shapes. Now I want you to see if you can find a food that is shaped like a square. You see a square food, I want you to just draw a little line under it. Draw a line under the food that is shaped like a square. The last thing I want you to do is find a food that is shaped like a triangle and circle it. Circle the food that is shaped like a triangle. Rectangle, circle, square, triangle, those are some of the words we're going to be using. Here's a triangle on the dog's collar. These books in this bookshelf is shaped like a rectangle. The clock is a circle, and the window is a square. Alright, the last thing we're going to do to get ready for Chapter 10 is play a little shape game. It's called Follow the Shapes. Here's what you're going to do. These shapes on this side are where you start, and the shapes on this side is where you're trying to end. So I want you to pick a shape. You're either going to pick the rectangle, the circle, the square, or the triangle. And you can do one to start, and then if you want to go back and do the others, you can. You're going to follow the path that only has that shape on it, okay? So if I chose the rectangle, I'm going to follow the path. There's a rectangle. Ooh, can I go that way? Is that a rectangle? Nope. Can I go this way? Yep. But am I going to go through the triangle? Nope. I'm going to come down through the other rectangle, until I get to the end. And I should only have drawn my line through the rectangles. And then you can go and do the other shapes too after you do the one that you choose first. So you're going to follow the path to get to the matching shape at the end, but you're only going to go down a path that has that shape on it. Alright, good luck. We'll start talking more about three-dimensional shapes tomorrow.